Up to this point in your career, you have worked as an individual contributor. You might have had leadership duties, but you haven't had the title yet. And now you believe it is your time to lead, your time to be in charge. You are prepared to assume the leadership position, so you're interviewing for your first leadership position. If I'm talking about you, then this is an exciting time. And we've got to make sure to prepare you to avoid the most common mistake made. And it's really common. I would dare say in my interviewing skills classes, 7 to 8 out of 10 people make this mistake when interviewing for their first leadership position. We've got to find a way to avoid that. And that's what this session is about. So let me ask you a couple of questions. You are preparing to go into an interview and say certain things, because we all know an interview is much more about what you walk in there wanting to say, finding a way to say, than it ever is about what they want to know from you. All you're doing in an interview really is preparing what you want to say and then using their questions to say what you already had predetermined you wanted to say. And if what I just said is a little confusing to you, you need to watch some of my other videos on interviewing, because that's what interviewing is. Now that we know that, we are preparing to go in to definitely say certain things. Well, what are you planning on talking about? We've got a couple of choices there. We can talk primarily about things we've done in the past. We can talk primarily about what we're doing now, presently, or we can talk primarily about the future. So, past, present, future, what is your plan and what are you strategizing to talk the most about? Question number 2. As you imagine yourself sitting in an interview, what do you believe you would be most enthusiastic to talk about, most excited to talk about? Past, present, or future? To both of those questions, folks, the correct answer is the future. This is not an interview to analyze and dissect how good you were doing things in the past, nor is it an interview to examine how good you are at what you're doing now. This is an interview to identify how great a leader you're going to be. And so we've got to be shifting our efforts, shifting what we talk about, and talking most about leadership. And secondarily, if when I asked you that second question, what are you most excited to talk about? If you're more excited to talk about your past or your present than you are your future, folks, you're in the wrong job. You're on the wrong interview. Okay, you need to go somewhere else. You should always be more excited to talk about the possibilities, where you're going, than where you have been. Now, having said all that, yes, you're going to get questions about your past and your present. So how do we go about answering them? Well, when somebody says to me, Craig, give me an example of something that happened in your past and how you handled it, and I go through the answer and say, well, this was the situation, this is what I did, this is how it worked out. I can't stop there, because that answer to this point is only talking about the past. I've got to continue in that answer after I say the result, go on to say, and let me tell you how having that experience has helped me prepare to be a successful leader. And when they ask me questions about what I'm presently doing, and I go through, this was a situation, this is what I did, this is how it worked out, I can't stop there either, because that answer now is only about the present. I've got to connect it to leadership. So I go on in that answer after saying, and this is how it worked out. And let me tell you how there were several skills that I developed going through that situation that will help me be an effective, successful leader. So when you talk about your past and your present, you've got to go on in those answers and connect the content of that answer to leadership. And then we've got the whole leadership component and the future component that we've got to talk about. I would fully expect anybody interested in a leadership position and in the interview to convey to the interviewers, let me tell you why I want to be a leader. Let me tell you what it is specifically I get excited about thinking about being in the leadership position. And be specific on those, 2 or 3. I would also expect that you would convey to them what you believe the characteristics and qualities of a great leader are. And at the end of that answer, you turn it around and basically say, that's me. I would also expect that you would convey to them your leadership style. Folks, if you hire me as your leader, this is what you're going to get from me. This is the way I will lead. And let me tell you how I arrived at that leadership style, where I pulled that from. Now, having said that, let me add one more thing before I let you go. And that is, when I'm reading a cover letter or a resume from somebody wanting a leadership position, I better be reading words that a leader would use. I better hear in the resume and cover letter a leader talking to me. And then when I first meet you, everything about you should exude leadership. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you greet me, the way you look in my eye, the way you shake my hand, everything about you needs to convey, Craig, there's a leader right in front of you, through everything about them. So we've got to use our past and present connected to the future. And the future being leadership, we've got to talk a lot about the future. I'd say at least 50% of your time in that interview, you should be talking exclusively about leadership and all the things that I previously mentioned. And then we've got to assume the role so that when we walk in the room, everybody says to themselves, they haven't even said anything yet, I see a leader right there in every one of their actions. Folks, follow those tips. I absolutely guarantee that will give you an advantage over other people interviewing for their first leadership position. That's my perspective. What's yours? Swing by our website, leave us a comment or a question. Check out other videos like this one. And if you like this one, please pass it on. It's been a pleasure being with you. Till next time, see ya.